The Detroit Lions are no strangers to controversy on Thanksgiving Day. Don't forget, 5 years ago on Thanksgiving Day, the loss to the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson was the quarterback back then, is the game that sealed Matt Patricia's and Bob Quinn's fate to get them fired. Thanksgiving has been the home of a lot of things. We've seen a lot of missed calls, a lot of bad calls, and as Detroit Lions fans, we have seen our fair share of calls. This is not new. This is not new. The NFL, every team has bad calls. Some go against the team. Sometimes we get calls to go our way. There was a couple today against the Green Bay Packers, but the Packers have always gotten away with these type of calls. When Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, there are two instances in particular I remember. The Fail Mary that should have never happened in 2015 on Thursday Night Football, a phantom face mask, that was one. It was another game, and this is when I knew that the NFL had storylines, and that was when it was 2020. I think it was 2020. It was a hands to the face by Trey Flowers. It was enough to put the Green Bay Packers into field goal range, and they wind up having a walk-off field goal. And I remember Trey Flowers being upset, criticized the refs, and wind up getting a fine. Well, today was no different. This hits a little differently. Usually I would be super animated, crack a lot of jokes in time like this. But I feel like that I could go on about the refs, and we can make that argument. But we all know, we've seen it, I've proved it, that the NFL is narrative-driven, 100%. Now, I'm not sure what the narrative is when it comes to now, because the Detroit Lions are having a tough time. And right now, they might have to run the table to get in the playoffs. They can only afford to lose one more game, and that one game, in my opinion, that they can afford to lose would be better against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They pretty much need to go. I don't think 10-7 is going to get you in the playoffs. And there's going to be a lot of reckoning in the offseason. And I'm going to be there to lead the charge. And I got one man, bro, on my hit list. It's Brad Holmes. That's it. And again, I would be animated in a situation like this and make a lot of jokes and have a lot of, excitement. But I don't feel like that this year is going to happen. So I don't know what the narrative is. I don't know if they're trying to set up a Stafford rematch. I don't know. It seems like, I'm going to be honest with you. It seems like that it might be two narratives, okay? One narrative is that you have the Stafford narrative that's behind, like, down the line, but the main one is the Chicago Bears. You got the former OC of the Detroit Lions, now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. One of these three teams will not be in the playoffs: the San Francisco 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, or the Detroit Lions. It might come down where it was a very similar situation to 3 years ago when the Detroit Lions needed to beat the Green Bay Packers to get in the playoffs, but the Green Bay Packers had to beat the Lions to get in the playoffs. But the Lions were already eliminated earlier that afternoon. As a matter of fact, I think the Seattle game was at 4:25, and we were eliminated before we even took the field. And I don't know if that's what's said, because the Lions are struggling. And listen, I know Dan Campbell need to take the points. I know that. But I'm blaming Brad Holmes for all of this. I'm blaming him for all of it, bro. You had your opportunity to take a pass rusher. You did not. You have fortified the secondary. You took Brian Branch. You took Kirby Joseph. You took Ify Melifonwu. You took Ennis Rakestraw, who's been a non-factor for this team. You took Terrion Arnold. You have missed a lot, and now it's coming back to bite us. You have failed to address the offensive line, but defensive line. That's going to be a different video. But the reason I'm blaming Brad is because, and this is what I be talking about, y'all. We are Detroit Lions fans. Brad ain't no fan of this team. He gets paid to bring this team. I think like Dan would coach for free, but Brad takes a paycheck. I mean, Dan does too, but you get what I'm saying. Dan would coach this team for free. We are fans of this team. We have seen the entire history of the Detroit Lions. We know what we've been through. We know what we're up against, especially with this franchise here. I want to show you the pool report. And when you see this might make you feel a little bit better. But the reason I'm blaming Brad, and you know what, Dan gets to smoke as well. You got to take the points, bro. You got to take the points. It works when it works. When it doesn't, J-Mo dropped the pass. If he would have caught that pass, we wouldn't be having this conversation about Dan Campbell. We know that we're going to get that. One thing I can say about Dan is he is consistent. He is consistent, but we've become a winning team. When you see this, man, this is laughable. Check this out. This is coming from Colton Pouncey's Twitter account. This is the pool report interview, okay? And this was after the game. Here's the question. It says, did you see on the second quarter touchdown to Dontavian Wicks, I said, I'm sorry, what did you see on the second quarter touchdown to Dontavian Wicks that led you to confirm he had possession of the ball and both feet in bounds? Now, I saw it, and it didn't look like he had control. Check this out. Mark Butterworth. Butterworth? Okay. The ruling on the field was a touchdown. We saw control with his right foot down and his left down in the end zone, and then a third step out of the end zone. Check this out. Question. Was there any discussion about a bobble? Bruh, Butterworth. We just going to sit right. Butterworth? No. These receivers are that good. So what that says is that they gave him the benefit of the doubt. These receivers were that good. He controls the ball with his hand, but with his hands or arms above his body while putting it down. By rule, he can actually put that ball into his body as he completes the process of the catch. Question. What was the conversation that led officials granting the Packers a timeout after initially calling a false start? Robert Tolbert. The timeout was called before the false start happened. If you go back and look at the tape, that is a lie. Question. It looked like Matt Laflur was covering his mouth at the time the penalty occurred. At what point did the official hear him ask for a timeout? Tolbert, before the false start. That's also a lie. How did you reach the conclusion that the timeout occurred first? Tolbert, we talked about it on the field. We recognized the timeout called and that the timeout was called before the false start. That is a certified lie. That is a certified lie. This is not the first time or the last time that we as Detroit Lions fans will go through this. We've been through it a couple times with Dan Campbell 2 years ago. I will say the last time things went like this, we went to the NFC Championship game. I'm trying to find some type of positivity because contrary to what you believe, I do not like losing. I don't like having to start over. I don't like having to think about the draft in week 13. It feels good being a winning team. It feels good finally being recognized. But Brad Holmes has to take us over the top because we got to deal with stuff like this. But you know what? That ain't the worst part. I'm going to show you the worst part. I cannot stand this fool right here. I cannot stand him. Here's head coach Matt Laflur. And this is coming from, let me make sure I give credit. This is coming from Ari Mirov's YouTube channel. Here's Matt Laflur. It's a 9-second clip about the false start. Check it out.
Of course they got it right. What do you think, Pete? Yeah, I was calling timeout. Of course they got it right. What do you think, Pete? Yeah, I was calling timeout. Of course they got it right. What do you think, Pete?
Okay, so I'm assuming he was asked about did the refs get the call right? And Matt Lafleur says, of course they did. Hold on, man. I mean, listen, if this don't tell you that there's a narrative in the NFL.
Of course they got it right.
Of course they did. And the strangest wink I've ever seen. He had to use all the muscles in his face to wink. Of course they got it right. Wink. I call it timeout. I'm going to tell you right now, Packers fans, while you're watching this video, okay, you have to pay what is called a troll toll. If I see a comment from a Packers fan in my comment section, or I get the hint that you're a Packers fan in my comment section, I will, because y'all don't know how to shut up, I will delete your comment unless it is accompanied by a super thanks. You want to know how to super thanks? You go to the bottom of your mobile device and you will see a little heart with the $sign in it. You hit that $sign, you choose an amount, your comment will be shown. If you comment on this channel and you do not have a super chat, by your name, I got time. I'm going to be up to 5 o'clock in the morning. I got to take my mom to the airport tomorrow. So I'm going to be up all night. So I got all night. I got time. I will delete any comment that I get the sniff of the whiff of you being a Packers fan if it's not accompanied by a super thanks. Thank you very much. So we already know what we have to deal with. The Green Bay Packers got away with massive false starts. Now, I'm not saying that the Detroit Lions did not get away with things. It was a pass interference call on a Meek that could have been called 100%. It was a taunt that could have been called on the sideline. We've seen Jamison Williams get called with something like that. Got to clean it up, right? Even Jamison Williams kind of got away with a little bit of a taunt. Not saying we're not the Packers. The Packers have been doing this. They've had stuff favored in their favor for a long time. But you know what? I'm tired of doing this, man. I'm tired of doing this. It's time to be better than these teams. It's time to be better than the refs. And we can't get better than the refs if we can't get a single sack. So I corrected my stat. Actually looked through it. The last time that the Detroit Lions had a sack by a full sack by a defensive lineman in regulation was week 9 against the Minnesota Vikings. That was the last time that the Detroit Lions defensive lineman in regulation had a full sack, not a half a sack, but a full sack. The Detroit Lions are now entering week 13, 8th in the league in getting to the quarterback. And I told y'all before, man, for me, this isn't about vindication. This is about winning Super Bowls. Because unlike your general manager, I will get in front of you and admit when I'm sorry, when I make a mistake. I will say I made a mistake. If I get something wrong, I will apologize. I will correct it. I'm not going to hide from the media at the trade deadline when you do nothing. And now you got us looking like boo-boo the fool. And I'm going to tell you, when we miss the playoffs, because it is shaping up that way, we have a gauntlet of a schedule, 5 games. The Dallas Cowboys just beat the Kansas City Chiefs, something we couldn't do. We know they had help from the ref as well in that game. The Dallas Cowboys are now 6-5-1. They play us next week. They can be 7-5. We'll drop down to 6-6. We're already out of the playoffs. This is the 3rd consecutive week that we've been out of the playoffs, while Ben Johnson, win or lose tomorrow, is still in the playoffs. As a matter of fact, if they lose, they might drop down a couple seeds, and the Packers will take over. And now the Packers are favorite to win the division. The Detroit Lions will be fortunate to crawl in the playoffs, and it's one man's fault, bro. I'm done. I am done with the Glazers. I'm done with all of that. You cannot sit by idly and watch your team get better and you do nothing to make it better. Brad Holmes was idle. He'd been sitting on his hands. You took Tyreek Williams that's getting outplayed by Roy Lopez. You re-signed Marcus Davenport. You re-signed Levi Onwuzurike, who is out for the season. You kept Josh Pascal. You drafted him, who is out for the season without taking a single snap. 2 defensive linemen that did not take a single snap in the 2025 regular season. It's reckoning time. It is reckoning, bro. We need to stage a reckoning. And I'm being, I'm not saying in real life and be something stupid, but it's time, bro. It's time to hold him accountable. I have people on Twitter talking about lowering the prices, Ford Field. I told y'all, man, we ain't won nothing. How you gonna have the highest prices in the league in tickets and you ain't won nothing, bro? And there needs to be a reckoning. There needs to be a reckoning. Here are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. The facts are both Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have 2 years left on their deal. Those are the facts. Now, you can go to war for them. If I'm going to war, I'm going to the war for Dan Campbell. But while I'm going to war, I'm going to say, you better start taking them points, big dog, or you're going to be next. You're going to be next. But Bradley, Matthias, Jerome, Cornelius, Leonardo, Holmes, he full of himself. He think his stuff don't stink. And it stank from where I'm sitting. It does. Let me show you something. Here is the Detroit Lions. This is what we were after the Minnesota Viking game. The last time our defensive line got a complete sack in regulation. This is where we were, right? Y'all remember that? Here's where we were the next game, after the next game. Notice something about the sacks? Look at the sacks. Second from the bottom. That was the last time that we went up. We got 3 sacks that day. Hutch had 1, and a couple others had 2 or had 1. That's the last time there was an up arrow and we were second in sacks. And y'all was saying, we good. This is what we look like after the next game against the Washington Commanders, I believe it was. Notice the second from the third, third from the top, the bottom. I'm sorry. I'm all out of it. I'm sweating. I'm upset. I still think I'm sick. And I feel sorry for everybody that went to that game and spent all their money, spent all that time away from family. It's a tradition of losing is what it is. See that? Down 2 to 4th. Oh, look at that. Look at this. Well, what do you know? Again, down another 2 from 4 to 6. Look at them sacks. Now, what do you know? After the game against the New York Giants, in which we got 1 sack, we're down another 2. Another 2. another 2 to 8th. And I have a prediction that the Lions will be out of the top 10 in sacks come Tuesday morning. And we went from second. And remember what I was telling y'all. Y'all gonna hear a lot of that too, by the way. I told you. I was telling you. Remember when I told y'all? I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Because I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I tell you what happened when I told you? Exactly what's been happening. You don't get better without getting better. You do not take a practice squad dude and turn him into the Dark Knight. You don't turn it doesn't happen. Do you know Al-Qadim Muhammad, 4 games now missing, no sacks. Now you might say, well, he's got to play to get sacks. My question is, why isn't he playing? Because they don't think he's good enough. That's why. You know, to be poetic justice or irony, if James Houston gets a sack on Jared Goff, that would be crazy. Now, you know I'm not a fan of James Houston at all. I don't mind that we got rid of him at all. But the way we looking, because James Houston ain't the guy we need. We need a stud, bro, on the opposite side of Aiden. A stud. And Brad Holmes likes to get bums. Your coveted savior, Ahmed Hassanin, do you realize he's not even under contract for next year? You do realize that, right? When we drafted him and we waived him, his contract was finito, done. James Houston, when we re-signed him and put him on we actually brought him back on the practice squad. And then in the offseason, we signed him to, I believe it was an exclusive rights deal. I'm not certain. It was some type of deal that the Lions, it was a 2-year deal. And then he wound up getting cut less than that in 2024. Remember, we signed James Houston at the 2022 draft. We cut him. We put him back on the practice squad. He came back on the roster. We wind up signing him for 2023 and 2024. And he didn't even make the 2024. He didn't even finish the season. Ahmed Hassanin is in that same boat. We have five defensive linemen under contract. And you know what? One of them didn't play. Marcus Davenport, under contract for next year. Aiden, Lacey, Aleem, Wingo, and Hutch. No, I already said Aiden. Aiden, Wingo, McNeil, Lacey, and it's one more. I just looked. It's one more. That's all we got. That's all we got. And we got to fix it. So, again, we got to beat the refs. We always got to beat the refs. These are the Detroit Lions. We always got to beat the refs. And in order to beat the refs, we have to be better than the team. We have to be better. We have to take it out of their hands. And in order to take it out of their hands, we have to have talent. We have to have talent. We're going to have to start having a conversation about this grit mantra. Is grit enough to win a Super Bowl? It's time for TOA, bro. TOE. Talent over everything. It's time for TOE. Talent, a toe. It's time for the Lions to get toes. Get some toes. Get some toes, bro. I know that didn't really work, but it works right now because I'm feeling some type of way. We wait all year. We got 8 months of speculation and trade this and trade that and signing that and bold move and yada, yada, yada. And we wind up where we are, 7-5 on the outside looking in a season where the majority of the media had us missing the playoffs. And we got to sit with a general manager that, excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, my impression of Brad Holmes. Brad, what do you want to do about the pass? What do you think about the pass rush? What's happening there? Why is everybody asking about the pass rush? Is it because Aiden Hutchinson is hurt? Is that why? Is that why we're asking about the pass rush? How many teams in the National Football League, right? How many teams in that? 32, right? You know what the answer is. You know, he can count. He knows 32 teams in the How many teams in the National Football League, right? 32. Okay, how many elite pass rushers would you say in the NFL? About five or six? Oh, yeah, that's fair. And we have one of them, right? We have one of them. That concludes my impression of Brad Holmes. A reckoning is here, ladies and gentlemen. Playtime, gloss period, sucking up, kissing up, all that stuff is over. Get her done. Get her done, bro. I've had enough. See how quickly the novelty, like I said last week, wore off of, yay, we're a good team. That real quick, because we plummeted back to earth fast. And guess what? Who was saying in 2023, please get an edge rusher opposite Aiden so we can get to the Super Bowl. And if we had that guy, we're in the Super Bowl and we beat Kansas City. A reckoning is here, ladies and gentlemen. Lions do not make the playoffs it's going to get loud. If they don't make the Super Bowl, it's going to be loud regardless. So either way, because now y'all are finally catching up to me. I have said this before. It is not, y'all think it's emotion that is controlling me. It is not. I am a numbers dude, like to a fault. I will be in the numbers, bruh. And the numbers, I'm not one of them, well, go, like, I'm just a Lions fan. These glasses are blue, but they're not rose color. They're not Honolulu blue. The name of my podcast is called Spike Kool-Aid. I used to be the leader of the SOL club. That's what I used to be. And right now, I have never, ever tried to tell you anything but what I thought was the truth, is that the numbers show that this is how you win. You have to be able to get to the quarterback, that the pass rush is more important than the secondary, that you cannot have scrubs and lesser thans on the team and win it all. We done that, bruh. We done this all grit. It takes more. Grit don't quit. We got to get talent now. And it's up to Bradley, Matthias, Jerome, Cornelius, Holmes to do that. I appreciate y'all. Go Lions.